welcome to Quarantine Art Chats. Today we're chatting to Casey Burrill, a visual artist from Geelong, Victoria. Casey comes from a very talented family of singers and artists and has developed a completely unique style of work. Her artwork has been represented by some of Australia's top design houses such as Fenton & Fenton and Kira & Kira. Casey is the most beautiful person inside and out, and always taking time out of her busy routine to encourage others and support their goals like she has with me. So thank you so much for joining us, Casey.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thanks. No, pleasure. No, it's so nice. It's so nice to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Cool. So
Any chance to chat about art?
Sorry?
Any chance to chat about art? I'm all in.
I'm on board. All right. So how are you and your family coping with COVID?
We're all good. They're all at different stages. I've got Lexi, who's 9, so she's in amongst the whole transition from remote learning to remote learning to back at school next week. Yeah. And that's been huge for them. There's been a lot happening, but I think the school's done really well in keeping them informed in what's happening. And I think the key is just to be really transparent and say this is, I think with her especially, because she's all over the news, they've got their iPads, she sees everything, and there's no getting around it really. So it's probably more my 4-year-old Mika. So she's been at daycare because I've been back working, doing remote teaching. Yeah. And it is more just talking about germs. So her big thing is germs at the moment, and we've got to be really mindful of the germs and make sure that we're washing the germs. Yeah. And but the germs won't be here forever. It's not a permanent thing, but we've just got to be really careful until the germs are gone. So that's been the biggest chat, I think, with her. Yeah. And Otis, my youngest. Yeah. He doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. I think they're just really missing their friends. That's been the biggest feedback, is just not being with their mates. But they're all over Skype. They are all over Messenger, which if you have any parents out there with kids Messenger, it's the phone just goes off left, right and centre. It's good to monitor, but yeah. I'd like to see them connected. I think that's been really important, but there's been way too much screen time. But that's our only option.
Yes. So, yeah.
Anyway,
all of us having to make that transition to technology is a little bit crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but they've been okay. Kids are really resilient. They're incredible. So yeah, I'm actually really proud of them. Oh, and even being at school, like just seeing what they're all having to go back into next week, and all the guidelines that are now coming through. It's going to be a brand new experience for them. But they've just been amazing. There's been anyway. I think they're all brilliant. I think it's been a huge thing. So anyway.
I had a friend whose kid really wanted to go back to school. So they could decide whether they wanted to go back one week or the following week. Mm-hmm. He wanted to go back. And she said to him, okay, but if you go back, you're back. You're not going to stay for a day and then stay home and then go back. So he went back and he was so excited. And then at the end of the first day, he came home and he goes, I don't want to go back. I gotta wash my hands every 5 minutes. I don't want to do
it. And it's just not like an innate thing to have to distance ourselves entirely all the time. And things that come naturally to us, they're going to have to forcefully kind of, be aware of and just go, actually, I can't do that anymore. I can't just play and like maybe not tackle, but just, young kids do when they play footy, and they can't do that anymore. So it's going to be different, but yes, it'll be interesting.
A lot to adapt to for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So for those who aren't acquainted with your work, could you just give us a little rundown on your style and your arts practice and what you're up to?
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a chat before about developing a relationship with your work and understanding it ourselves, because sometimes when we first start, that's a really big thing that I've had to learn, is describing my work and understanding my work. Because a lot of time we don't really understand why we do what we do. We kind of we gravitate towards certain materials and tools, and we do these things, but understanding the why behind what we do and why it's coming out in that way is something that takes time. And probably only now I've only really discovered or being comfortable speaking about my process. So it is very expressive. I don't naturally gravitate towards painting representationally. I admire it. I will purchase that art. But for me, creating it, I definitely, I love movement. I love rhythm. And we were saying before, like it is, that really synchronizes with music. And I don't like going back to fine details. I feel like that really holds up a painting for me. And I feel like a painting encapsulates energy. I believe in that. And I feel like people can see that and they can feel that if they're art lovers, they can feel that energy. And I think for me having to put in smaller details in an artwork, that doesn't feel right to me, and the energy feels weird. For me, I guess you got to think about what feels really good to you in the process. I know what tools I like to use. I love using scraping tools. I love using wide brushes. Smaller brushes I don't love. I use my hands a lot of finger painting.
The first 3 paintings
that I made,
I didn't even own a brush.
No, there's so many ways around it if you don't have a paintbrush. Mark making is huge. I love those really organic marks, things that just look natural and not forced. I suppose art is probably the only place that I feel like I can I'm an overthinker, definitely a huge overthinker, and it's probably the only place where I can just go with my first thought freely. And that feels really good. So that's what I kind of focus on. If anything holds me up, I won't do it. Because in the end, it's got to feel right to you. But it's all, lots of thick lines. Sometimes there are outlines of figures that you can make out, a lot of body figures, those types of things. But it is just an outline usually, something that I could just freely paint and then move on from. I
think it's what I love about your work though, is that I'm so drawn to the energy of your work. I love the colours and I've tried. I really thought that when I would go into art as a career that I would be abstract and expressionistic. Can't do it to save my life. I can't express what I want to express in that kind of form. I've tried and I keep coming back to, but it needs a shadow there, and it needs and yes, I understand you get this tunnel of this is restricting me, but I feel like after this 2-year barrier, I've finally broken through and been able to connect the intuition, and after doing a few courses, got my skill, and I'm finally on my path, Did
you learn a lot about yourself too, in that you like guidelines and you like a system? Do you find that?
Because I am that person. I like to think I'm free-spirited and I like to think I'm out there.
It's just that not having the fear of letting go and just allowing it to come out freely and without restriction. There's no judgment. That's the best thing about art. You can literally paint over it. Or if you're sketching, there's a waste bin.
But I do feel like my artwork has this safety net all around it, and I kind of like that because it kind of feels like it's got all boundaries. But I love how your work, when I look at it, I can't describe it. I can't put it under the category of abstract, although I think it's probably the closest. But when I look at your artwork, it's but it's not abstract. It says too much. It's saying so much in your artwork, and it just explodes out of the canvas. I just adore your work.
Oh, thank you. I did a big 3 meter by 2 meter piece last year that just came out of nowhere.
Wow.
And
I remember that one. I was like, wow, she's on. That's something.
It was a bit much. I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness. I remember bringing it to Fenton in the warehouse, and Lucy was like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just had to get that out of my system. I had to do a 3 meter piece. But I think that was a really big shift, obviously, in my personal life, and I had to get that out of my system. That was just a way to just wrap that in the visual form, and then that was done. So, that did have a figure in it, and I quite often do draw female figures when I'm feeling that sense that I need that. I get it from Jackson Pollock, I've got to say. He was the one that made me fall in love with expressionism. I looked into him a little bit more, and the fact that he loved just listening to jazz music in his studio, which is me. I listen to a lot of stuff, but he would just drip paint over the canvas, and the energy from the music was converted to into visual form. And I loved that concept. I was like, that is so cool. That just stuck with me. That resonated.
Artwork is to me, it's like a perfect jazz.
Oh, really?
Yes. So your inspiration for your work comes from music, do you think?
That was my first thing. Yeah, dad was a drummer, mum's a singer, my aunties are all singers, my sister is a songwriter for
Wow.
Sony. She's working for Sony at the moment.
Wow.
And yeah, and I've just I was singing with my other sister. I've got two in a band for forever, and we've always been in that scene. Like, I was actually talking to dad the other day about how I used to fall asleep literally, I don't know how he let me do that, but beside the kick drum when they were rehearsing with their band. Like, I'd be tiny, like 2, and I'd be asleep. Like, I don't know if that's that rhythm that's just been embedded
Yes.
in me.
Yeah. Okay, so a bit of a different topic, but before COVID-19, what was your typical day? What did your routine look like before COVID?
I am a homebody through and through. Absolutely. I've got my 2 sisters that just like socialize, like they're just always out, and I'm definitely, I don't know if it's just being a mum too, but I love being home. I love getting up, making a tea, like early riser, out in the studio. I'm with the kids a lot. But yeah, podcasts, Audible, I've kind of gone down this self-discovery, I guess, time.
Yeah.
Last year, I was in the studio a lot, and I actually got to a point where it was a big year, there's lots happening, like personally, and at the end of the year, I really felt this halt, and I actually walked into my studio, and it made me question whether I could do it full time, because I was like, I started to like resent my studio and my work, and I just had a really bad vibe, and I don't know what was going on. I missed my painting, but I actually didn't step into my studio for a couple of months. I just stopped altogether because I was like, oh, for some reason I just need a break. And during that time, obviously I went back to school, and because I missed the community, I missed having a team, and I think that's one of the things as well. When you're by yourself a lot, you're stuck in your head a lot. I wanted to get out, and I wanted to actually feel like I had some sort of purpose, some sort of where I was sort of giving back a bit more. And
primary school, you worked in a primary school? Yeah.
Yes. So I'm back there now, and I'm loving it. And I guess now I'm kind of reflecting on it. Well, you know, how could I give back through my art? And I guess what I want to do is hopefully empower people when they look at my artwork. I want them to feel really empowered that they can do what they want to do and back themselves. And I really want that energy to come through in my pieces. Yeah. But yeah, it was a weird time before COVID-19. Yeah. It was, lots of podcasts, lots of Audible, lots of trying to figure out what was going on, big shifts, and just moving up, I hope, in the way that I'm thinking and the way that I'm living. And so it was a bit of a tough one, but I think probably only the last couple of months I actually stepped back into my studio again, and I was like, oh my God, I missed you so much. Like, I wanted to paint, and it was like it all came back, and it just proves that you can't force creativity. It comes and goes, especially when you don't have a template to work to, when it is all very intuitive.
You have to find that right vibe and that right connection with yourself, and definitely if you feel you need to take breaks, it's important. So important.
And it is true, like when you do have that disconnect with your art, there's something going on with you.
Yes.
There's a disconnect with yourself, and that was just something that I needed to look at for a little bit, and it feels good now. I feel like I feel like I'm in a better place. So yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So when COVID hit Australia in March, like how did that sort of turn your world upside down? How did everything sort of change for you? Because obviously working in a primary school, you would have been out with kids, and like I said, working as part of a team. What changed for you with COVID? Because Melbourne was on a sort of a lockdownish kind of thing for a while, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I actually just thought about this today. It was probably more, I noticed in my behaviour, and communicating had shifted. I just became a little bit, like, obviously stressed, overwhelmed. I think I was more thinking about the fact that even I had to consider the kids a lot too, you know, their extracurricular activities had all stopped, sports had all stopped. It wasn't really as much a problem for me because I'm used to being at home painting. Like, do you know what I mean? I think it was more thinking about adapting to all the technology shifts that were happening, and we had to do it quickly, you know. There's a lot of upgrades that were happening, and
teaching over Zoom as well.
Yeah, it was a similar program, software called Teams. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I was lucky because I'm teaching art. I can kind of pre-record all of my content, and then and just I actually made a little website for the kids. So that was okay. It wasn't as much pressure as the classroom teachers that have to be on every day, you know, talking and being face to face with the kids. Just that normality for them, just to see them. And but yeah, I think it was more just an anxiety. I mean, it's totally normal to feel like that when there's something so unknown happening and you have no control over it. So you just have to revert back to what do you have control of right now? And I just had to, you know, make sure the kids are okay. But yeah, it was a big
Strange
shift.
times.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah. I learned a lot about myself just in terms of my communication style, because you were forced to communicate on a whole nother level with your team, because there were so many changes. Trying to navigate all of that, I learned a lot about myself and my communication, and that was cool. I mean, there were things that I picked up on. I was like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing that, or I could be saying that better, I could be approaching that better, or there are also things you're really proud of as well. But it was a really interesting time. But yeah, it was strange staring at them in a screen, like on a screen for so long, and then actually seeing them in person. You adjust pretty quickly. You're like, oh yeah. But
it's changed the way that we speak to people, and I feel very socially inept lately. I feel like I don't know how to socialize.
No. I feel like the kids are going to be like that too. They're all probably going to forget when they come back to school. They'll be like, let's do a few like integration programs and things like that. They adapt pretty quickly though. They'll be fine.
Yeah. So this kind of along the lines of what we're talking about anyway, but do you think you've sort of gained any specific insights from being in isolation, or any values that you've pulled out of this?
It's perspective, definitely. Things we took for granted, and being resourceful, materials. I think that's been a huge thing, and really good for the kids. It's been a huge lesson for them. We didn't realize how easily accessible things were, you know, to us, and how quickly we could get things from the supermarket. Now it wasn't available, and it's like, well, and we've just got to be okay with that and be like, you know what, there are other options. And just how important getting back to nature is. All I craved was just going out and doing like a nature walk, or going out to the waterfalls, going to the beach, you know, just those things. I think we definitely had a couple of days because our kids live in Torquay as well. And yeah, they were those beach visits with the kids, and just being able to have time just to stop and take an hour walk along the tracks. Nature has just, I've missed it so much, especially being at home on screens. You just don't know how important it is for your mental health as well. So I think and just looking deeper into my own values and things that I really want, and the relationships that maybe weren't working, and the ones that really do. I don't know. It's been a lot of growth in terms of myself. Meditating.
I think we've all been on that train during that time as well. Yeah, I think we're all on this huge personal growth train, and we've all had to look inward. And I like what you said about resourcefulness, because I sort of had this little panic a few days before the quarantine came into effect. Like, have I got everything I need for the rest of my life? Because I don't know how long I'm going to be in here. So it's kind of like, do I want more? Do I want less? Should I buy another tray of eggs? Should I get another canvas? Like, do I need more blue paint? Sure enough, I did run out of blue paint.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God, that's so funny that you said that. I didn't think about toilet paper. I was just like, is my framer going to shut? No.
And then, very soon into it, it was like, wow, I don't need half as much as I think I need to be happy, because all my happy times over the last 3 months, I love painting, don't get me wrong, and there's definitely some really inspiring moments for me, but my happiest times were in the garden, or with my husband, or with my dog, or, you know, chats. They haven't been to do with anything I was doing or making or gathering, you know, and I think that really spotlight on your values is huge for me as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And now I'm sort of thinking, when I buy something, do I really need it? Or
Yeah, no.
or can I use something else? I've suddenly got this sort of idea of I want to reuse rather than maybe gather.
And it's good that everyone's in the same boat. Like, all of a sudden material things didn't really matter as much. It's like, have you got your health? That's like the main thing. And have you got people supporting you? Have you got a community? Outside of that, it's not important. Do you know what I mean? It's just really, that perspective thing just really hit. So yeah.
All right, so last question. So for artists who are in America and Europe at the moment, so obviously they've got quite a different situation than we do in Australia. Many of them are still stuck at home, or even for those in Australia who are just starting out in art and they're just trying to find their voice. Because of the events the last 6 months, what sort of advice would you give to creatives about what we're going through at the moment?
Oh my goodness. I guess I can only really speak from my own experiences. Starting out looking at artworks online and seeing if you can recreate it, know if you have access to the materials, but also thinking outside the box. You don't need a paintbrush. You don't need a canvas. There are other things that you can draw on. You can use things found in nature. You can print with leaves. You can use your hands. Just being resourceful once again and thinking about those materials, but really finding a piece that speaks to you. Like me with Sarah Kalk, I was like, she's really connecting with me. And if you're feeling that pull, there's going to be no stopping you. But I just think being resourceful and just, I don't know, if you have that connection to it, you'll paint every day and it will just keep evolving and growing. But also documenting. I think the biggest thing has been Instagram. I mean, TikTok's huge now. But I mean, at the time, I remember when I first started, I made a point of making Instagram, just setting up a page, an art page. And I took a photo of a piece that I'd done. I took over the back room in the house. And it's just cool to have that documentation of how you've evolved and how you've grown. And it can start from nothing. It can start literally from like a print of a leaf, like I said, post it, and then people actually give you feedback and start to connect with your work as you go. If you're feeling good doing what you're doing, people will connect with you and just develop a little network as well. I think that's really important. Interact with people. Sorry, that was my cat. He knocked a lip gloss off the bench. Interact with people that you admire or that you look up to. Don't be afraid to message them. I don't think that was one of the biggest things. I've made some really strong friendships with people who are equally as passionate about art as I am.
Yeah.
And that was really important, just to be with them. And I think you're always going to back each other. If you both love the same things, you're always going to back each other. And that's just going to give you confidence to believe in yourself and keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that passion has to be there. That want to do it. And if they're ready in quarantine, if they've realized, hang on, I do want a creative outlet and I'm connecting to acrylic paint right now, there are tons of tutorials on YouTube. There's so much out there. And I think people forget, you don't have to go to a physical workshop. There is so much online to really instructional videos on how to build a landscape, how to, there's so much out there.
I don't think I could ever leave the arts community now.
No.
Medical was lovely because I was fortunate to work in industries where I saw a lot of people get better from conditions that they thought they never could. So that was a real privilege to be part of that. But when I went into the arts sector, I thought, it's going to be a bit dog eat dog. It's all going to be, don't copy my thing, don't try this because it's too much like mine. We're going to sue you. Like, I went into it thinking it was going to be really scary because I've drawn so much from what's around me. I'm a firm believer in you are what you surround yourself with, and then produce your environment, or you produce experience as an artwork. So I was terrified that I was going to offend some people, but as soon as I started, I had people messaging me, and like you said, don't be afraid to reach out. Like anybody who I reached out to that I thought, oh wow, I'll never hear from them, but I want to tell them that their stuff's amazing and I love all their artwork. They all responded and replied, and I've gained the most beautiful mentors just through that process of discovery and I've had tutorship and, you know, come on our jobs and see what we're doing. You know, we'll teach you about spraying, or we'll teach you about this or that. And it's been amazing. It's such a beautiful, warm, sharing community. I just could never leave.
I think if you come into it like you and being really super authentic and passionate, you're going to find a safe, feel like it is a safe network. Keep that in mind, and maybe try and show people something that no one's ever seen before. And I know that I still have elements of my work that you can tell are taken from sources around me, but I try and keep that mentality too. Like, can I show them something that no one's ever seen before? It's hard.
Absolutely succeeding, because until I saw your work, like, I've never seen anything like your work. And I think that's why it resonates with me so much, because it's pure creativity, and I know that it's coming from a really genuine, honest place. Like I said, it's like that beautiful jazz piece. I just love it. Yeah. I love your work. So anyone who hasn't seen it, go look it up right now.
Thank you so much. Keep going. So much. It's all awesome. You're doing such a great job. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Yes. All right. Take it. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Nice to meet you.